non-chair, yeah.
It was an important geopolitical.
Yeah, that's right.
Chair and vice chair making international.
We're discussing international effects. All right. Well, thank you all for coming to another lovely evening here at the Town of Gilbert Civic Center, and I'd like to call to order the study session. First item on the agenda here is UP 24-50, T-Mobile/Payne Middle School, WCF Broadleaf Tree. And for that, we're going to bring up Miss Erica Prater.
Thank you. Good evening. Okay. Good evening, Chair, members of the Commission. The request before you tonight is for the T-Mobile Payne Middle School WCF Broadleaf Tree. The staff and applicant are seeking feedback from the Commission this evening on the stealth design of the proposed structure. We're looking for input on the proposed structure, ideas for improving the design, and potential alternative design options. The project site is located at the southeast corner of Higley Road and Coldwater Boulevard. The applicant is proposing to construct a Category 3, 75-foot high stealth structure and a 900-square-foot enclosure on 0.5 acres of the larger 27-acre parcel. The parcel is zoned public facility and institutional and is surrounded by single-family residential zoning on all four sides. The proposed site at Payne Junior High School was selected by the applicant to fill a coverage gap that exists within the area. The requested input we are seeking tonight is we are looking for feedback on the proposed design, ideas for improving the proposed design, and proposals for alternative stealth design options. Category 3 wireless communications facilities, or WCFs, have the most significant visual impact on the surrounding areas due to the permitted height allowed and the few requirements for concealment. Category 3 WCF types are either monopoles, as shown on the left, or a stealth structure as shown on the right. Stealth and concealment are defined in the LDC as the application of design standards to ensure wireless facilities blend in with the surrounding area to the maximum extent feasible. A stealth structure may include, but is not limited to, freestanding structures such as artificial cactus, artificial tree, or sculptures. Some evaluation criteria that staff considers when looking at stealth structures are to make sure that they will blend in with the surrounding area to the maximum extent feasible are the level of visibility from nearby properties and the roadway, the surrounding developments and the zoning districts. Will the proposed design change the context of the site? And then for faux tree designs, we are also looking at criteria, are there existing mature trees of a similar height, size, color, texture, or shape in the vicinity? This is the broadleaf design that's been proposed by the applicant. At the center is the elevations. To your left is a view, a mock-up view to the southeast. No, I'm sorry, my apologies, to the southwest. In the lower right corner is looking towards the southeast. The applicant has also proposed a eucalyptus style tree, and you can see that here. And as we can see, there's the view to the southeast at the top and a view to the southwest at the bottom. And that concludes my presentation. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much, Erica.
Thank you.
Anyone have any questions they'd like to kick off with? Mr. Simon, please.
Thank you for the presentation. The only question I have is, they're proposing the broadleaf but are giving the eucalyptus as an alternative, or saying we're going to do one or the other?
Yes, so they provided the eucalyptus option today, so
Okay.
I included that.
I was just going to say, I'll throw 2 cents for the area and the types of other vehicles that are around there. Maybe I need a nap. I don't know. The other types of trees around there, I kind of like the look of the eucalyptus better than the broadleaf.
Great.
So,
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, thanks for the
Commissioner Dagarino? Yeah.
presentation. I'm kind of familiar with that area, and that's a pretty open area and somewhat undeveloped, and I don't think there's any perfect design that would fit beautifully in there. So why did the applicant choose those two trees? Because it does stand out. I mean, it does stand out. It's pretty loud.
Commissioner Degarina, thank you. That was what the stealth designs they provided. I did not seek clarification as to why they went with those designs. But I can ask and follow up with you if you'd like.
Yeah, I mean, I think when that area is more built out, it probably would fit a little bit better because you'd have more homes and more trees and that type of thing. And maybe that's what they're looking at towards the future. That area is more developed, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Wang?
So, try to clarify, we can, if approved, we can choose one of the other. It's not up to them, is that correct? The eucalyptic or the other design for the tree?
Yes, Commissioner Huang. So the only thing we really have purview over is the design for these structures. And so, yeah, they would, what we're trying to get tonight is either feedback on, are you guys okay with either one of these tree designs, or is there something else, other stealth designs that you would be interested in considering for the site? Or if a tree is something that you would prefer to see, are there any suggestions for improving it?
Okay.
Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you for the presentation. So this is going on school property?
Correct.
Is the school a public or is it a private school?
Commissioner Anderson, it is Gilbert Unified School District.
All right, so it's town school? Or how'd they end up with this site? How did they land on this area to put this tower?
My understanding is there's a gap coverage within that area of 5G or wireless capabilities.
Okay, so the town's leasing them that little piece of land for them to put this tower on?
The school will be
The
leasing,
school will be?
yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. No? All right, well, I don't have a major issues design-wise. I think eucalyptus looks a little bit better and makes you think of panda bears that are, although very violent, are very cute. So I think it would be good.
We can put one in the tree.
Okay.
Great.
Is that everything you needed then, Erica?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, next up, item number 2, DR 25-06, NWC Higley and Warner, and Kristen Devine.
All right, good evening, Commission. The case I have for study session for you tonight is going to be for a master site plan for the northwest corner of Higley and Warner. You can see it here outlined in the black and teal area. This site is part of the Morrison Ranch character area. The feedback that we're looking for from you tonight are going to be regarding the elevations, the site layout, and any general feedback that you would like to provide. All right, and the site is approximately 5.4 acres. It's currently proposed to be developed in multiple phases, with phase 1 being the central 2 buildings called Shops A and B. Those 2 buildings are approximately 15,000 square feet, just under, with 1,900 square feet of patio space attached to them as well. The 2 buildings together total approximately 7,000 square feet of restaurant space and almost 8,000 square feet of retail space. Between the 2 buildings, you can see that there's a pedestrian connection that also follows through down to the bottom right corner of an already established landscape tract that is required of the Morrison Ranch character area. So the site is focused around that corner with pedestrian connectivity throughout it and also out to the west into the adjacent neighborhood. Right, and staff does not have too many concerns with the site plan as proposed. One standout concern that we do have, though, is going to be regarding the refuse enclosures. As of right now, they kind of just look like they were placed in wherever they could find room for them, and we would like to see those refuse enclosures maybe integrated into the design a little bit more, so they're less of a focal point to the site itself. As you can see, if you're entering in on Warner, you're coming in and smack, you're hitting a refuse enclosure. Same with a couple of the other entrance points as well, so we would just like to see those maybe moved around a little bit. All right, parking for the site is, there are 108 spaces required. The applicant is currently proposing 197 total spaces, which once the site is built out, would accommodate for almost all of the required parking spaces at that time, with the estimated uses of what the 4 additional pads are going to be. It does leave a 12-space deficit, and that would need to be accommodated on those pad sites in the future when they come in. Because of the way that the site plan was submitted to us, it's called a bubble plan. Each pad site would need to come back forward for a full design review with you, so you would see those again. They wouldn't be able to come through an administrative approval just because of the vagueness of what's proposed currently. All right, and this is just a snapshot of the landscape plan. One thing to mention on this is that the street trees will be modified slightly because we do have street theme trees for this area. 50% of the trees need to be either pecan or Chinese pistache, and they are not currently called out that way. All right, and that brings us to the elevations. We don't have a ton of concerns with the elevations, but we would like to see more of a farmhouse style that's reminiscent of the Morrison Ranch character area. Right now, the materials that are proposed are modular brick, wood composite siding, stucco, and the standing seam metal roofing. The canopies that are on the buildings are all flat canopies suspended with cables, and we would like to see maybe those canopies be a mix of pitched awnings, just something to mix up the flat canopies that are presenting in more of a modern fashion at the moment. And then this is just a closer shot of, it's a 3D rendering of the proposed Shops A and B building with the colors and materials below. And then below, I just included a nearby development on Power and Elliott that is currently being constructed and probably actually is open now. This is kind of the style that we're hoping that this development can kind of complement a little more. All right, and with that, again, we're just looking for feedback on elevation, site layout, and any other general feedback that you would like to provide.
All right, thank you, Kristen. Anyone have any feedback they'd like to start off with? Vice Chair?
Thank you, Kristen. Usually I try to stay away from aesthetic decisions, and tonight's no different. And overall, if this was coming tonight, it would probably be pretty close to an easy yes. There are two kind of cautions to file away from my perspective. The first is phasing. When you've got civil improvements that are associated with improvements that aren't coming at the civil improvements kind of need to come up front, particularly drainage basins, but even parking and stuff. So be careful that there's with the old from Popeye, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. And no, you're gonna pay for the hamburger if you want it right now. So phasing and civil improvements are, particularly with those, it's not a huge deal. It's easy to manage those parking spaces that they need to come before the improvement opens. The other question I've got is this out parcel. Usually an out parcel is either out or in, and it's got out in the name. But this one seems to be kind of tailored to the site. It's landscaping. Can you explain a little bit more about the out? Is it completely just an out parcel and we ignore it, or is that the drainage basin? And if so, is it restricted? What's going on with that?
Sure, so Chairman, Vice Chair Fay, it is an already constructed and required landscaping tract. It's roughly 1.5-ish acres that is required of the Morrison Ranch character area for the arterial corners. It's got the pedestrian track that goes through the middle. It's got your palm tree circle that if you look at an aerial down, all 4 corners should have the palm trees where it looks like a circle. So it's not part of this proposal, but they did design the site to cater around that pedestrianness of the tract.
It's not catering to our tract. It's our tract is catering to the out parcel, essentially.
Yes?
Yeah. Okay. No, okay. that makes sense. I did not understand that from reading things, and it stood out as something that seemed a little bit, not quite out parcel, but out parcel-esque. Okay, thank you. That's all
Two
my
separate
comments.
parcels, but trying to coexist.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair. Anyone else? Commissioner Anderson?
Thank you for the presentation. What's staff's opinion on the amount of the, that wood material that they're putting on the building and the darkness of it? Do you have any thoughts on it?
We don't love the darkness of it. I would love to see it more reminiscent of a neutral desert style tone, similar to the Power and Elliott Center here. The colors are very contemporary and modern, but they're trying to blend it with the kind of like an agricultural style
rustic.
architecture, and it's just, it's missing something.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, I like the play with the material of it. I think it would look kind of interesting having that rustic look compared to like, you know, a smooth stucco or, you know, even. But I would agree with the color of it. I think it's really kind of dark, and it's making the whole building look dark, especially once you get on the slope roof where you have the standing seam roofing, and that's dark too. So I would suggest to the applicant, you know, maybe look at a lighter color for that wood material that they're putting up.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would agree with that too, myself. Anything else? Okay. Well, other than that, I agree with pardon me, I agree with the material that it does seem to be a little inordinately dark, but not terribly so. So if there's a way to acquiesce to somewhat of a lightening tone on that, that would be nice. But other than that, I like the layout, and the build seems to be very much in line with what is in that Fry's area, so. All right, well, thank you very much, Kristen.
May I ask one follow-up question?
Yes, please.
How do we feel about the refuse enclosures?
I'll actually comment on that. That was one thing I noted, but you had brought it up that you've already had conversation with the applicant. I don't like the couple of them right in the front that you literally drive in off of either Warner or Higley and run into it. But they're also in the back. I'm kind of looking at that thinking, okay, how's that traffic flow going to work to hit those refuge enclosures? So I do feel like there needs to be work done on that. I just didn't say anything because you had brought it up. So, but I would agree with you. So.
It's a little tricky, because in the pre-app, they did have the refuse enclosures adjacent to the residential, and that was one of the comments. We asked them to remove them from adjacent to the residential, so it's not as much of a nuisance, and that was accommodated, so there's just a little bit of tweaking that we feel like should be worked out. Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay. Next item up, item number 3, Z24-21, Tuscany at Gabriella Point, and Keith Newman.
Chair, can I jump in? I need to recuse myself from this one.
We have a recusal. Commissioner Anderson, thank you, sir.
Good evening, Chair Munt, members of the commission. My only project before you tonight is for Tuscany at Gabriella Point for their extended yards they're proposing. The Tuscany at Gabriella Point apartment complex is highlighted there on the screen in front of you. The whole entire area of the project is 39 acres, and that includes the whole thing outlined in red. It's obviously at the Higley, east of the southeast corner of Higley and Warner Road. This apartment complex is part of the of this Gabriella Point this Morrison Ranch type of area in this near Morrison Ranch, right in here in the Gateway Character area. To the west of the project is the Gabriella Point Commerce Center, which is zoned regional commercial. To the south of the project is zoned business park, and that's also part of Gabriella Point Commerce Center. And then, of course, you can see to the east is Morrison Ranch, and to the north is more Morrison Ranch development as well. So the subject site that we're going to talk about today is actually the blue part that's on the west side of the development, and that is approximately 19 acres in size of an overall 36-acre apartment complex that it has about 760 units in 3- and 4-story buildings. And as if you drive by today, you can see that it is under construction. They're moving pretty quickly. The request before you tonight is for, oh, that is the wrong information on the slide. I apologize. It's not for that. It's for extended extended yard areas adjacent to the covered patios. So I apologize for the typos. I'll move into the request here. So, like I said, 39 acres, 19 and a half acres on the west side. And you can see on the site plan in front of you that the portion that's in white, and you can see all the little blue lines on the site plan, that is where they're proposing to add the extended yards. The part on the east side, which is also about 19, about the same size as this half of the apartment complex, that side they received administrative approval in October of this past year for extended yards that are very similar to what the applicant is proposing today. And I'll go into that in just a few minutes in a little more detail, but really quick, I talked about the units, how many units there were already, 760. And the request is for the applicant to reduce common open space in the MFM portion of the development. So the site has 2 different zoning districts. The west side is zoned MFM. The east side is zoned MFL. So on the MFM side, which is the west side, that's where they're proposing these extended patios. And the MFL side, on the east side, they already have the extended patios that were approved. So they're proposing to take the open space on that west side, the MFM piece, and decrease the open space from 43% to 40% for these extended ground floor yard areas. So I'll just go into a little bit more detail on this now. So here's kind of a diagram or an exhibit that will show the extended yards. The top one and what the current condition is today. The top picture shows the current condition. So you can see the apartment building, and to the far left on the ground floor there, you can see the ground floor covered patio, and you can see kind of people sitting on the porch right there. Hopefully you can see that. And then to the right of that, you'll see this area. You can see in between the column or the pillar of the apartment unit, there's a tree and a bunch of landscaping, and then you can see a sidewalk. Within that space today, they're proposing landscaping, or that was what was originally approved through the original design review case. So the bottom picture shows what the applicant is proposing to do. The applicant is proposing to fill in that space from the column of the patio almost to the sidewalk, not quite to the sidewalk, probably about an area of about 7 to 8 feet or so from the patio, existing patio, and fence it in with about a 4-foot tall view type fence, and use that area as an extended outdoor yard space for residents on the ground floor. I'm still trying to gather from the applicant whether or not the landscaping is going to remain. I don't believe it will. I think the landscaping is all going to be removed. And so that space will be converted from a common open space area to private open space. So that is reducing the amount of common open space in the development. Now, as far as that is concerned, currently they were approved for 43% open space, which was approved by the town council as a trade-off for deviations that they had received approval for, or they requested for that MFM portion of the development. The deviations that were requested and approved by the town council were for additional building height in that MFM portion only, not the MFL portion, just the MFM portion. And that was town staff negotiated with the applicant for open space at 43% above and beyond the code requirement of 40%. And the applicant agreed to that. So by reducing that from 43 to 40%, they're taking away the trade-off for the deviations that town staff negotiated with the applicant, and that the town council approved. So town staff, we're going to be honest, we're not in support of proposing to remove something that was agreed upon and approved by the town council in exchange for deviations. So that is our major concern with this project today, with what the applicant is proposing. Now let's talk about the MFL portion on the east side. Town staff approved an administrative design review for that and approved those extended yards. And the reason we did that is because that area, that whole MFL portion of the development, had 48% open space where 45% is required. When they proposed those extended yards and the MFL piece, they reduced the open space down to 45%, which is the minimum that is required per the code. But the difference is they received no deviations in the MFL portion of the development. So town staff is okay with the reduction there because it wasn't a trade-off for deviations. I hope that all makes sense. So that is basically my presentation in a nutshell. I'm available to answer any questions you have, but I would like to get your comments and feedback on this proposal by the applicant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Keith. Who's going to start us off there? Commissioner Simon, please.
Keith, thank you for the presentation. I actually have no problem with this whatsoever. And I think we've had these conversations in the past where we look at open space and these included yards with the open space, whether or not we actually count that as open space or not, and my brain gets confused on that quite frequently. If we were looking at extending the balconies and the patios and moving that whole wall out, I would have issue with that. But I think what is being given up is basically gravel and bushes for usability in the bottom floor. So I look at this as something where you're going to have somebody, more than likely these are going to be pet-friendly apartments, and they could have maybe a small dog or something, and that would be a good space for them rather than needing a dog park, so to speak, although I would probably still encourage that. But I look at this and I don't see any problem with it because I don't feel like visually it's going to take away, and I really believe that that space that is going to be used is actually going to be functional space now versus just space that's there because we have 45% required open space. I understand the staff's stance on the concessions that were already made, but I look at this and I don't think that I have issue with it.
Thank you, Commissioner Simon. Commissioner Gage.
Thank you, Chair. I have to agree. This is not actually usable community open space. No one is going to play right next to someone's patio. So it makes sense to enclose it and allow those residents to actually use it.
Commissioner DeGravina.
I was just going to add one more thing, Keith. That also gives young families a chance to have their kids play in a kind of a protective area. So just kind of my 2 cents on that. So I'm kind of in agreement.
Vice Chair.
Thanks, Keith. I'm slightly different perspective. I'm nominally anti, or slightly anti. I don't find that which is enclosed gets maintained nearly as well as the community, and it'll change the aesthetic. I would, if you're going to, we'll go to a private standard, there's higher numbers for a reason. I would want some offsetting community open space to keep that green aesthetic, assuming that some of what's inside the fence might get lost because it's not getting maintained as well, or it's based on different factors versus the entire community. So it's not crazy, it's not a hard no, but to me, it's kind of a disfavored, something along those lines.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Wang.
So I'm kind of in between. So I like the enclosed area for the family that can use a space that, commonly, but since they're on the ground floor, but also I'm concerned with each individual unit will have their own landscape. It's kind of become chaos, versus if it's not enclosed to be landscaped uniformly. So that's what I'm kind of struggling. And the other thing is, you know, kind of like you already negotiated for the deviations, and now, you know, you get the ice cream, but you didn't do the chore. So that doesn't, you know, sit right with me. So I'm kind of still a little bit struggling on this one. So.
Thank you. Yeah, so Keith, I have a question as it relates to this. What do we look at enclosed personal space as open space?
Chairman, members of the commission, if it's enclosed open space, we look at it as private open space.
Right.
So in this situation, they're proposing to add more private open space, even though it's a view fence, but they're reducing the amount of common open space that was approved by the town council. So that's our biggest concern, and it was a negotiated trade-off for deviations, and so that is our biggest concern.
Right,
And-
so there
and-
was already some acquiescence of other
Yes.
terms as it relates to the open space as it is, and now we're hearing, now we
Right.
want more reduction.
Chairman, that is correct. So now they're just going to be meeting the minimum, whereas they were going above and beyond and giving the town something that, for us to approve those deviations, that was like, hey, we're going to give you this. We'll allow you to have this if you give us this. Now they're removing that. And I want to also note that when we approved the administrative design review for the MFL portion, we specifically told the applicant that staff would not support this request if they tried it on the west side, excuse me, and of course now we see this before us. So we have clearly made that clear to them that we would not support it if they tried this on the west side of the development, because we value that additional 3% of open space. I know it's only 3%, but it was a trade-off for deviations, or else we may not have supported the deviations to allow greater height increases in the building.
Yeah, and so for that express purpose, I don't agree with it. I really don't like when we spend time going through a project and then it comes back, and this goes to Vice Chair Fay's point of phasing. It's the same thing where if you say, okay, we'll do it for this reason, but then later on, them or somebody else, an applicant would come back and do something, well, this doesn't seem fair, but there was a reason that was set. So for that reason, I don't agree with this, and I don't see the use outside of being able to possibly charge more for rent by telling them they have a yard. And I also find that to be, if it's positioned as this is still good because everybody can see it, it's not something I'm comfortable with going against agreements that were made in council votes. So that's my opinion. But you've heard from the rest of the staff as well. So is that good for what you needed, Keith?
Chairman, members of the commission, I think that's all the feedback I need to hear, so.
I have a quick question, I'm
Appreciate
sorry.
it.
Will this come back before us as an agenda item outside of our study session?
Chairman, Commissioner Simon, yes, it will come back before you as a public hearing item. I don't know exactly when yet. We just issued first review comments a few weeks ago, so I'm not exactly sure when it will come back, but yes, it will come back to you.
All right.
I got one more quick.
Oh,
Keith, as we're discussing this up here, kind of something that came to mind is that since that's fenced, who has control how those yards look if they kind of get a little out of hand? Does the apartment complex, can they fine as like an HOA, says you can't be doing that, so the aesthetics, so it looks appropriate? And so that kind of came up while we're discussing this, is that it could get a little crazy, a little sloppy.
Chairman, Commissioner De Gravina, that is a question we have asked during first review comments. We don't have answers to that yet. We too are very concerned about the aesthetics and of people putting couches and furniture and all kinds of things in those areas that are unsightly and don't provide a good appearance, especially landscaping would provide a good appearance, and we're very concerned about that as well, but we don't have those answers yet. I'm hoping to provide more information on that when we bring it back to the public hearing in the future.
I think when I initially said I was sort of in favor, but now I'm kind of 50-50 after thinking it through a little bit more and hearing the comments up here.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. Okay, thanks so much, Keith. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Okay, with that, that's the last agenda on the study session. Let's bring us to our fourth item, which is a discussion of the regular meeting agenda. And today, we currently have consent agenda has item 8, Tustin Ranch, item 9, Holiday Inn Express, and item 10. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Public consent has nothing. Non-consent has items 8, 9, and then 10, an LDC text amendment. And then we also have a consideration as it relates to the Faux Sun Valley. Did we want to have any discussion of if anything could be moved to consent, or?
I would like to propose that we move item number 9 to consent unless somebody wants to hear that.
I want to hear that one.
You want to hear that one? Then I have nothing else.
Okay.
I would propose actually 8 and maybe 10. We had some discussion with the city attorney's office about whether LDC can ever go on consent, but this is such a non-controversial one. If it's possible, I'd be cool with it.
Yeah, and I would be too. Okay.
Oh.
Anyone,
She's nodding. I think you're nodding, right?
anyone opposed to the,
Nod more dramatically so I could.
all right. And then I just wanted to also touch on that we were planning an executive session, and I wanted to have, I don't know if it's a discussion or if it was completely decided as to exactly when we would do that. And I wanted to know, do we think we should do the executive session first and then come into the meeting? It will take as long as the attorney wants me to, and that's the only answer I can
No, I
give
think
you.
we might have I imagine there's going to be some discussion.
It
And-
could.
And there's actually some training too. Is that in the executive session? Yes, so
So we could do it after, just leave it in the administrative items, but put it, I would like to move it before we discuss item 11. I think that would be prudent since
do the regular meeting up to,
up to
Item 11.
administrative items, then call the executive session and come back. Okay.
okay?
You'll see. It's special, called by the chair. It's not a surprise, it's on the agenda. Okay, very good. Thank you all. Then with that, we will adjourn the work session and be back here at 6 for the regular meeting. Thank you. Okay, well, if everybody here is ready to get started, we will get started then. Thank you all for your patience. I would like to call to order the regular meeting, and the first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand with me and join. Okay, thank you very much. If we could please get a roll call.
Commissioner Hung,
Here.
Commissioner Lyon, Commissioner DeGravina,
Here.
Commissioner Gage,
Here.
Commissioner Davis, Commissioner Simon,
Here.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yeah.
Vice Chairman Fay,
Here.
Chairman Munt.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to approval of the agenda. And we had some heated discussion in the study session about the agenda. And if I remember correctly, we discussed that we could move 8 and 10 into the consent. Is anyone here in the crowd here to speak on either items 8 or 10? Scanning the crowd, I do not see any. So we could move those, and then I believe whether or not this has to be said, since it'll likely be after most, that we could do the executive session prior to item 11, if that's possible. So I will entertain a motion encompassing those changes if possible.
Chairman Munt, I would make a motion to move items 8 and 10 onto consent and leave everything else as written.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Chair, well, I gave him back his chairmanship. No, from Commissioner Simon. Thank you. Okay, please cast your vote. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, now we will move on to the next, communications from citizens. This time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. The commission may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to state law, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration. Are there any individuals here who wish to speak on items not currently on the agenda? I do not have any cards. Seeing nobody, we will move on then. And we will have the report from the council liaison. Councilmember Monty Lyons is with us online, and we have a special announcement. So Monty, if you are able, take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening, and I wanted to take a minute to thank Ava Kutro for her service to the town. Since she'll be retiring April 1st, this will be her last Planning Commission meeting with Gilbert. Ava began her career as a senior planner with the Monmouth County Park System, I believe, in New Jersey. And from there, I was told she moved to Arizona and served as a senior planner and promoted to the community development director in Paradise Valley. Ava served Paradise Valley for 21 years and then came over to Gilbert, where she has served us for the past 6 years and has been instrumental in the general plan approval by the voters, countless planning cases, and most importantly, providing support and building the best planning team in the Valley. She has tirelessly supported the Planning Commission and Council, and we've been lucky to have her as part of the town team. Thank you, Ava, and good luck, and we wish you the very best. And on behalf of Mayor and Council, we would like you to have these flowers that are there as a token of our appreciation. And forgive me, I've got COVID, so my voice is a little weak, and I would have liked to have been there for this, but thank you very much.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure.
All right, well, thank you very much, Councilman, and please get some rest and drink lots of fluids. Then I would also like to then say that I really appreciate all the time that Ava has done working with us. And in those 6 years she's been here, I believe, I don't know, were you here when I first started on the council? I don't even remember how many years I've been here. I know Commissioner Anderson was the chairman. He might remember. But he's probably been here for 100 years, so he may not remember either. But you've been here the entire time that I can remember. So if I worked with anyone else, that should say something. I do have some fun facts that I'd like to share about Ava. You know, and as the councilman mentioned, she started in June 2019. So she started this nice new job right before COVID. So that had to be fun. Like, hey, look, we're going to get started. Let's walk around the office, see what it's like. Boom, you're out. Go sit home. But of that, the number of planning commission hearings attended is 69. And that's not meant to be a crude teenage joke. These numbers were sent to me by Veronica, so unless I am not privy to said joke, but it was 69 meetings. And number of planning cases submitted, 2,880. And, you know, as Councilmember Lyons has said, that she was instrumental in updating the LDC. And anyways, she's been great, and I didn't know any different, so I'm very sad to see her go. She's been a lot of fun, and I actually personally got to go spend time with the planners at the planning conference this year, and needless to say, they actually are a very fun group of people, which most people may not know based on all of their experience of being in public meetings. They might think the same about me, but it might be more obvious that I'm fun because I'm kind of insane. But nonetheless, from us, we'd like to also present you some flowers. They're slightly smaller than the commission or the councils, but that's by design because our budget is much smaller, like our little mini fridge that doesn't even have water. But that's okay because, you know, you helped to scrap us together. So thank you so much, and we will miss you greatly, and we look forward to you joining us up here, much like the new mayor has done. So thank you, Ava.
Thank you all. I really appreciate it.
Ava, the last 6 years have been fantastic. We wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you as well in a public setting. So you've built an incredible team. They love you enormously. So thank you for everything. We've got the smallest flowers.
Thank you once again.
Yeah, Commissioner Anderson.
So I just want to point out that Eva is the third planning commissioner that I've seen that is retired, yet Kyle is still here.
We won't make any inferences to what that means. We will let the general public and the many people who view these meetings make that for themselves. Okay. Thank you all very much. And moving on now to public hearing. Consent. All items listed below are considered public hearing consent calendar. The commission may, by a single motion, approve any number of items where, after opening the public hearing, no person requests the item to be removed from the consent calendar. If such a request is made, the commission shall then withdraw the item from the public hearing consent calendar for the purpose of public discussion and separate action. Other items on the agenda may be added to the consent calendar and approved under that same single motion. So seeing that more people may have come in, our consent calendar is item number 8, S24-04 Tustin Ranch, and item 10, Z25-01 LDC text amendment. Are there any individuals in the crowd that wish to speak on either of those two items? Okay, very good. I will then entertain a motion as it relates to the consent agenda of 8 and 10.
Chairman Munt, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Vice Chair with a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner DeGravina. Please cast your vote. Or not. Ava, you're not retired yet.
I think they may have taken our keys away.
Maybe the flowers have
Everything
messed
stopped
with
working.
the dashboard here. Let me try it again.
Well, I thought Noah was doing this all the whole time.
It's probably my fault. It's fine.
Okay, try it now.
Okay, there we go.
Thank you.
And the motion carries. Consent agenda passed. Moving on to the non-consent. Non-consent public hearing items will be heard at an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by the commission by a separate motion. During the public hearing, anyone wishing to comment in support or in opposition to a public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission. Moving into our public hearing non-consent, we now have the solitary number 9, Z24-18 Holiday Inn Express, and Miss Nicole Russell.
Thank you, Chair, members of the commission. Nicole Russell, Senior Planner. The application before the commission this evening is Z24-18 for the Holiday Inn Express. Here is the aerial photo showing the subject parcel and the surrounding zoning. To the north and west is PF&I for the Santan Freeway. And to the south is also PF&I for Public Facility and Institutional, and it's the Mercy Gilbert Medical Complex. To the east of the subject site is also PF&I for the Discovery Park, and to the east is GO for the Albright Senior Living Facility. The request before the commission is an amendment to an existing PAD to reduce the landscape setback on the southern side of the site in order to accommodate the design of a 5-story, 98-room hotel on approximately the 2.6 acre site, which is zoned general commercial. A little bit of history on this site. In December of 2008, the council approved an ordinance and a zone change for 56 acres from general office, community commercial to the public facilities and institutional district for the Celebration Center campus we know as the Mercy Gilbert campus. In January of 2022, the town council approved a general plan amendment and a zone change, rezoning the subject property 2.6 acres from the PF&I, Public Facilities and Institutional Zoning District, to the general commercial with a PAD. And on March 22nd of 22, the Planning Commission approved DR 2131 for a 4-story, 84-room hotel on the subject site. As previously stated, the applicant is proposing to amend the existing development plan and add a new deviation for the landscape setback adjacent to the multi-use path on the southern side of the site. Here's another aerial photo without the zoning showing the southern portion of the site, and you can see some of the equestrian trail that is to the south of the site. Previously, the PAD had deviations for height increase and reduced landscaping on the Santan Freeway side of the site and reduced building setbacks. The applicant is requesting a 10-foot reduction in the non-street side landscaping setback to 10 feet from the 20 feet that is required. Here is the development plan showing the proposed 5-story hotel with the parking on all sides of the building and amenities located close to Pecos Road. Staff supports the request based on the justification provided by the applicant that when the equestrian trail to the south of the property is developed, the landscaping will meet code. And here's a chart showing the approved deviations for the request and the proposed 10-foot reduction to the landscaping on the southern side. For the reasons set forth in the staff report, staff requests that the commission move to recommend approval to the town council for Z24-18 as requested, subject to the conditions outlined in the staff report. I am available for questions, as is the applicant, and the applicant also has a presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody want to ask any questions prior to the applicant's presentation?
I'll ask one. The original, the prior hotel that was talked about, that had also had underground parking too, didn't it?
Chair Munt, Vice Chair Fay. As I understand it, the previous design did have parking underneath the building, and when the applicant came forward with a different brand of hotel, staff found that it was not in substantial conformance with what was previously approved, and that's why they are here today for deviations. But yes, you are correct that the parking was, part of the parking was located underneath the building.
Do you know how many spots were under the building before?
I do not.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if we would want, then I guess we could ask the applicant, which is none other than Mr. Ralph Pugh, one of my favorite orators ever here at the Planning Commission, to come on up. So thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. The button, sir, that makes it go.
And I'll give you that.
Simple, right?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman and members of the commission, thank you again for the opportunity to be here. My name is Ralph Pugh. I'm here on behalf of Cooper Development and my partner, Reese Anderson, who is not in town today, and so I'm filling in for him this evening. The Holiday Inn Express and Suites is an important addition to this part of the town. We have looked for and searched for hotels in this area. This is a very, very good use here. Really, the issue tonight, Commissioners, relates to the setback on the south side. And before we get too far into that, I want to say thanks to Ava. Thank you very much. And to look around the room, the funny thing is, if we talk about time in Gilbert, we need to find out who in the room worked in Gilbert or handled any zoning case when the town council met in the Chamber of Commerce building on Gilbert Road. Okay? My guess is nobody. Right, Kyle? So, sorry to say, Ava, some of us were here in those days. And so it was really fun. That was the late 70s, early 80s. So here we are, great community. So the issue tonight, Commissioners, really, in our opinion, unless you have other questions, boils down to the setback deviation we're looking for on the south side. That's the only proposed deviation. The height, the additional rooms, the parking, everything else satisfies the prior zoning conditions. So here's the exhibit that I think can demonstrate why we're requesting this deviation. Typically, you have a 20-foot setback on the south side of the property at this spot. And here again, we are in the Gilbert Medical Campus area where we have non-residential uses and expectation for offices and other business-type uses. So there's a 30-foot trail and easement that exists that's outlined in pink, as you can see on your screen. And that easement and those uses were designated years ago. So what we thought was we would add a 10-foot setback on the northern side of that, and then when and if that easement ever ceases to be used or is extinguished in any way, there would be landscaping there, and it would end up being a 40-foot, in essence, setback. But it didn't make much sense to us today to come in and do 20 more feet on top of the 30 feet that's already open, has a trail through it, doesn't get used regularly, I don't think, for much equestrian usage. My guess is that easement came years ago when this area was more residential in nature and agrarian, but it's there. And so that's the reason we're here. We figured, along with the staff, that it would be better to approach this from a PAD deviation based on the quality of the project, the need for the project in the area, as opposed to going through an adjustment through a variance process. So to us, it makes perfectly good sense to do that. The separation will be there, and we can still meet all the parking and landscaping criteria. So if I could answer any other questions you might have about it, that to us is really the issue tonight, this single deviation we're looking for.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Pugh. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? Once again,
I don't know if it's a question for the applicant or for staff. Who owns or who is responsible for putting the horse trail on the easement? Who owns or controls the easement? Who's the beneficiary? and what will trigger the construction there?
Chair Munt, Vice Chair Fay, I believe that is owned by the Mercy Gilbert Medical Complex. So as I understand it, the Mercy Gilbert Complex intends to expand at some point in the future, and when that expands, that's when the trail will be completed.
That's in some deed restriction or some agreement already, or what we hope is going to happen?
From what I understand, that's what was been stated in previous approvals on the property.
Okay.
Okay,
I've got one.
Commissioner DeGravina.
I'm a little bit confused. You got the 30 feet plus the 10 feet. Is that going to look like all 40 feet, or is that 10 feet separate and going to be landscaped differently? So there's a separation between the 10 and the 30?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner, I think the answer to that is that the 10-foot landscape area will be landscaped to meet the town's criteria. So many plants, so many sizes, such and such containers, et cetera. The trail easement, the horse trail easement will remain as it is, and it's open. So there will be that distinction. What we did not want to do really was put a wall there, which we think is completely unnecessary.
I agree.
Yeah, so,
Okay, that makes sense.
thank you.
Okay, anyone else? All right, thank you very much. And then I'll just check one more time throughout the crowd here if there's anyone who did wish to have any public comment. Not seeing any. I will then close the public comment and bring it up to the dais for discussion and/or a motion.
So, Chair, I'm the one who, I'm maybe not the only one, but I wanted to hear this one out. And I think that I've been trying to grapple with why I was uncomfortable with this one. And I think it comes down to that the statement of the problem is all, the deviation is only the setback is not quite the way I see it. I think if the original plan with the original underground parking was left in place, I don't think this deviation is necessary at all. And I think that, so I think really what this is about is eliminating the underground parking. Which, all right, I mean, I understand it, but you've already got deviations for setback reductions and landscaping on other sides of the property. And I don't have a strong or a good feeling about when this horse easement's gonna get built. If it's gonna, I think we're all kind of assuming it's gonna be a landscape corridor, but I don't know that, I don't know, the hospitals are profit centers themselves. So I was not altogether comfortable as I as I kind of tried to work my way around this over the last few days. Fundamentally, I think this item in front of us comes down to requesting a deviation to push more of the aesthetic onto the adjacent landowner in order to eliminate the underground parking. And given the eliminations that have already happened, I wasn't comfortable with that. So that's what kind of triggered my swirling thoughts.
No, and I completely understand that, and that goes kind of to my statement earlier. But the one thing that I will say is with this, I'm quite confused myself on how there's an equestrian trail that's suddenly going to be made, like as if they're going to one day put a bunch of really pretty trees so then people ride their horses there. And it's right by the highway. I don't know. You know, we live in Gilbert, so it's pretty cool. You can just be driving and suddenly you'll just see some guy or gal galloping down the road and you're like, oh, that's right, that's cool. But I just don't know that they're on their way to the 202 so they can really give it and see if they can catch the car. But the fact of the location of this gives me less reason to berate the poor applicant on some of the things that I normally would have, because I think right by the highway, and there is nowhere else if you have more people staying there, and the parking wise, you know, they're not gonna park out on the road, so I don't have a major problem. Anyone else have anything?
Yeah, I've got one more question for Nicole. I'm, again, a little bit confused.
Technically, we closed the,
It's like, we can't go back to asking her.
you can discuss it,
Up
though.
here, is that a deeded equestrian trail? Because if it is, then it has to stay that way. Or are they just using it as an equestrian trail that at some point in time they could landscape or do whatever they want with it?
this is something that,
Yeah, again, because yeah, during the discussion, these things are coming up, and if it's deeded, then it has to stay that way.
well, it might stay as an equestrian trail, but they might put trees on it, I guess.
Well, and someone's gonna probably fight that because they wanna ride their horses.
I can say that for myself, because I'm a total geek, I'm likely going to go and search what in the world is this equestrian trail, and maybe go look at it, but, I don't think, for me at least, it's not the hugest issue, because if it was like an easement of somebody else's property, and then there was gonna be development, but because of the nature of where it is, right between the freeway, I mean, it would be in the interest of anyone that wants to make your hotel look nice to not just have a dump right behind you by the highway, but I know what you're saying, like, at some point, the question of that easement will come up, but I don't think that what they're doing here, is that will have a major impact on anything that easement would do. Yeah.
I can understand where Commissioner Fay, Vice Chair Fay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Is drawing his conclusion with removing the underground parking. But with all due respect, I feel that, that 10 feet, sorry, that was a joke. That was aggressive. No, I feel like with regards to where this sits and the commercial property to the south of that, I don't have an issue with this. I think that if it was residential or another property, I think with pedestrian connection or something along that lines, you could work that through, but I don't have an issue with the 10 feet on here. And with regards to the horse trail, obviously it's no longer existent. I would say it probably doesn't even ever get used at this point because of where it sits. So to me, it's a non-issue. At some point, that's probably going to be swallowed up in the property to the south, and we'll be dealing with what does that setback look like there. So
Yeah, I looked it up on Google Earth. It doesn't look to me like this equestrian trail connects to anything.
So it's like Schrodinger's cat. Once you get your horse on there, you can never leave.
they just
You
walk in,
exist, I
they're
don't
walking
know.
in circles. They're stuck.
Commissioner Anderson.
For me, my 2 cents is, we're talking about a landscape setback. It's not a building setback. I mean, if you're looking at, this thing keeps blinking. I mean, once that pavement gets into place, I mean, that's where it's gonna go. There's gonna be 40 feet from the pavement to the property line, well, to, whatever's going there. And, for me, it's landscape. I mean, if it was a building setback and they're requesting it so they could push the building further south, yeah, I would have some complaint about that, but, I mean, putting some trees and some landscape there, and, I'm sure, maybe if you even average out that whole area on the south side, maybe it would average out to about, close to 20 feet of setback, because there's a lot of ins and outs and kind of movement along that, so I have no issue with the request for the deviation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Then if there's any other discussion or a motion, please.
Chair, if there's no other discussion, I'll make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to recommend approval of Z 24-18, Holiday Inn Express, for the reasons set forth in the packet.
I'll
Thank
second
you.
that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Simon and a second by Commissioner Wang. If no other discussion, please cast your vote. And motion carries 7-0. Thank you all very much. Thank you, sir. Okay, now we will move on to the next item, and because we have the administrative items, I believe at this point we are going to do the executive session, and under executive session, the public body may convene into an executive session at one or more times during a meeting as needed to confer with the town attorney for legal advice regarding any items listed on the agenda as authorized by ARS 38-431.03.A.3. And do I make a motion to do that?
Yes, Chairman.
Okay.
Chairman Munt, I'd like to make a motion to move to executive session at this time.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We have a motion to move to executive session. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Simon comes through with the second. All those in favor of executive session, please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Commence executive sessioning.
Commissioners, we'll be meeting in room 202 upstairs. Chair, I think that we may have to have a motion to reconvene the regular meeting.
Okay. Well, we're back, so I'd like to open it up to a motion to reconvene if one is available.
Chair, I would like to make a motion to reconvene the regular meeting.
Thank you, Vice Chair. We have a motion by the Vice Chair to reconvene the meeting, and do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner DeGravina. Please cast your vote if you'd like to reconvene.
You should vote no.
Motion carries 6-1. Okay. Welcoming us back, we're going to move into the administrative items. Administrative items are for the commission's discussion and action. It is to the discretion of the majority of the commission board regarding public input requests on any administrative item. Persons wishing to speak on an administrative item should complete a public comment card form indicating the item number on which you wish to address. The commission may or may not accept public comment. Our item up here, we have item number 11, UP 24-60, Pho Sun Valley. Consider the following. The reconsideration, A is reconsideration of the Gilbert Planning Commission's action on February 5th, 2025, the denial request for use permit, UP 24-60, Pho Sun Valley. B, the motion of reconsideration passed to the commission. In reconsidering the application may take one of the following motions. A motion to overturn the decision of denial of UP 24-60. B, a motion to overturn Planning Commission denial of UP 24-60 with an additional modifications and/or conditions. C, a motion to affirm the Planning Commission's denial of UP 24-60, or finally D, a motion to continue UP 24-60 to April 2nd, 2025, our next Planning Commission meeting. With that in mind, I'd like to open up the floor if there were any motions on this item.
Chair, if I may.
Sir.
I'd like to move to reconsider this body's actions whereby it denied UP 2460 Pho Sun Valley Vertical Bridge on February 5th, 2025.
All right, we have a motion on the table from Commissioner Simon. Do I have a second? Second. Second from Commissioner Anderson. Please cast your vote. Okay, we have a motion carrying 6-1. If anyone has any motions additionally into the handling of this?
Chair, if I may.
Sir.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to continue to April 2nd, 2025 for the reconsideration of UP 24-60 Pho Sun Valley.
Thank you. We have a motion from Commissioner Simon. Do I have a second?
Clarification, sir, on the motion, would that also include a notification requirement?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, and to include notification to residents.
Yes, thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner, or Vice Chairman Fay. Please cast your vote. Motion carries 7-0. Okay, moving on to the administrative items, we have the Planning Commission minutes. Consider the approval of the minutes of the study session and regular meeting on January 8th. I'm assuming we've all reviewed them in our packet. Does anyone have anything to discuss or to make a motion to approve January 8th's minutes?
Did you decide, I wasn't here, so can I recuse myself? How does that work? No, okay.
Well, no, she could recuse herself on this vote if she wanted to. I recuse myself on an item. That doesn't mean I'm still going to vote on the minutes.
Okay.
Just to keep the meeting, I would say use your personal discretion in any of those matters.
Okay. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from April 8th, 2025 as written.
January.
What did I say, April? 20, January 8th, 2025.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Simon to approve the minutes from January 8th.
I'll second it.
Second from Commissioner DeGravina. Please cast your vote. Vote carries 6-1. Next item up on the agenda is item number 13, Planning Commission meeting minutes. Consider the approval of the minutes from the work session and regular meeting from February 5th. Do I have a motion or any discussion?
Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 5th, 2025 as written.
We have a motion from Commissioner Simon to approve the meeting minutes from February 5th. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second from Vice Chair Fay. Please cast your vote. Approved, 7-0. Communications. We've done our executive session, so now moving on to the report from chairman and members of the commission on current events. Who's got anything to report? Well, I just want to take a moment to once again say thank you to Ava for being such a fun planning manager and to keeping all of our jobs as commissioners in line by telling us nearly everything we need to know all the time. So thank you once again, and you will be missed, and we can't wait to see you come in as just random resident to talk and fill out yellow comment cards. And it's also spring, so watch your allergies. Be safe. Okay. Next up, we have the final report from Planning Service Manager Ava Kutro. Please take it away.
Thank you, Chair. I would just like to thank everybody for making my last meeting so special. It wasn't necessary, but very appreciated. I truly had a fun time with you guys at these meetings, even the long ones, and I appreciate all of your service to the town. And I, as a resident, may visit you and speak to you for 3 minutes every once in a while. Thank you again.
All right. Next up, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
This reminds me of a book on civil disobedience. I love it. Thoreau. All right. We have a motion from Commissioner Simon and a second, even if we didn't need it, from Vice Chairman Fay. Everybody cast your vote on the ending of this wonderful meeting.
It's only 8:15. It's not that bad.
Motion carries 7-0. Meeting adjourned. You know,